again. So the government would send these papers out, and you'd be given one, and gum it in your little book, and it would give a chapter and a verse. And you'd have to look that up and say what led up to and what led away from this verse. So they wouldn't give you the story, just the verse, and you'd have to tell of what story or parable this verse was the culmination. Really well worth doing, and taught you to do some close textual analysis. One day Mrs. Watts made a fatal mistake, and she tried to combine her scripture teaching with her nature teaching. And she said, swept away by faith, she said, and boys, you notice how beautiful the greenery is. The trees, the fields, the shrubs, the leaves, all the lovely shades of green, which she said is amazing because it's the color that's the most restful and lovely to our eyes. So God must be very good, because imagine if he'd made the leaves and the grass orange or purple or something really clashing and horrible to the eyes. But he didn't. He made it green, which is much nicer. And I thought, I was 10, I thought, that's bullshit. I didn't know anything about chlorophyll, say, then, or photosynthesis. In fact, I don't know that much about it now, or phototropism, or natural selection, or anything. I didn't know anything like that, and that no one had ever told me that it might not be true, what was in the Bible. So, but I thought, no, that's absolute nonsense. It's obvious to me. I knew the eyes came after the trees. The natural vegetation had been there before the human eye was. How I knew this, I don't know, but I did know it. Turns out to be true. And I could never get over it. I started to notice more and more discrepancies and absurdities. And you know how it is, you can't be a little bit heretical. That's partly why I favor compulsory religious instruction in schools. Because I know of no other way to guarantee the steady mass production of atheism among the young.
Do you know, it never occurred to me when I asked that question it was an invitation to recite the first chapter.
No, well, there you go.
But you've done so.
But if you want, the hard copy is still fine paperback version.
Listen, God is not great. I mean, you can tell, and everyone here can tell, that your use of language is mesmerizing. The book is a polemic, and as such, it's quite intoxicating as well, I think. But for this conversation, I've been looking for the flaws in your argument, and here's what I think the main one is. You've exposed every conceivable facet of religion's capacity for evil, but you've made virtually no admissions at all about its capacity for good. So I wonder why you refuse to do that.
Well, I thought there were enough books making that point. So I would write one stressing the dark side of it, if you like. But I'm not going to pretend I don't know what you mean. I mean, it is another question that I always know I'm going to be faced with, so I don't think I duck it so much as to try and anticipate it. The way I've resolved this, to try and make it condensed, is this. You have to point out to me, I've tried this with quite leading theologians and members of various religions and important clerical spokesmen. I said, you give me an example of a moral action taken or a moral statement made by a believer because of their faith that I couldn't make as a person who doesn't have faith.